Hello everyone! Today we talk about a very important part of Dungeons & Dragons, or, well, all tabletop role-playing games essentially, but something that's not really talked about enough. Some don't even know if they're doing it right. That's right. We're talking about notes. Now obviously, it doesn't have to be a leather-bound fancy book. You get points if it is, though. But how do you take notes? It's not exactly a skill that you practice, it's just you kind of do. And it's hard to ask people, hey, what's your tactic on note-taking? Because it's very much a intrapersonal thing, and however you break it down. It's always about finding your system, but let me tell you mine and strategies that have definitely helped along the way. First and foremost, do not write in full paragraphs. It is unnecessary. It takes you out of immersion. Jot down words, phrases, individual. When I am playing, it is simply, this has occurred. We did this. Names of taverns, names of inns, names of items, names of materials. It is very easy to stop and not take notes of the things around you because you don't want to be pulled out of character and you want to experience things in the now. But we don't get to be them constantly. We will go away and stop being them for a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month at a time, and then be us again. When we sit down, as much as we can bring back the mannerisms and the ideals and the trusts and the bonds and the flaws of who we're playing, if we don't remember that we just went to an item shop, bought this, and my main goal was to open up a flower shop, you kind of lose a progression that happens in life, and it goes from just a character's life and development, story progression, to, quite frankly, just collection of random events. You need to jot down other things so that you can compute them and taste them and process them as this other being. All of that being said, you have to both experience the now and write and comprehend and remember another life's memories. So to do both, shorthand. Be like those typists in court that have their own special language, and find something that makes sense to you, shorten it down, paraphrase it, but just jot down things here and there. What's happening that's important to the group? What's happening that's important to you? And thoughts. That's another important one. I know in D&D there's a lot of times where you just say what you're thinking or doing, and that's good, and that's fine, and that's great. But there are some times when something important's going on. Maybe someone's talking and you don't want to interrupt them. Or maybe you simply don't want to bring it up, whatever it is, right now. But it is something that you'd like the cogs to be working on. Jot it down. It's just about putting little things in, little dashes, phrases that are important to you and important to your character. Anytime something happens that you're just kind of like, oh, huh. No matter how much you think you're going to memorize it, and you probably will, put it in the notes to help with cohesion. Trust me, it'll come back later. And another thing, I probably should have led with this. No matter what, always, and I do mean always, write down names. If NPCs aren't meant to be named, or tavern owners, or innkeepers, or item shop people that are just supposed to be one and done, they won't have names. If your DM ever willingly gives you a name, write that down. That's important. Even if not now, later maybe. There's probably a reason why the DM said a name. We don't make things harder on ourselves. We don't give characters names unless they're important. There are other people that litter their worlds with living populations full of names of people that they don't have to do that, and kudos for them, and honestly, at that point, write it down because, they've earned it. But for the most part, always write down names. Another tip that will be very helpful. I know a lot of people have apps. I use an app. I don't use D&D Beyond, but I understand those that do. It's a great system. There's a wallet or gold count that you have on there. Do not keep your active gold count on that. Keep what you have at the end of the session. Always what you have at the end of the session. Have an active tally on your paper. Trust me, it sounds weird, but this helps. The amount of times I've seen people reset, delete too much, backspace, refresh, restore. If you gain 1,000 gold when you're adventuring, and you started with 600, and you wrote 1,600, and then, here's a gold for your trouble, write that down. Here's a 2 silver for a meal, write that down. And now there's 2 things that come of this. One, you don't have to, or every time you spend 1 measly gold, you can just jot it down real fast. But 2, you ever thought to yourself, man, I thought I had a lot more gold. Why do I not have as much gold as I did? And then you go back and you're like, I spent 10 gold on something. What did I buy 10 gold on? You know, granted, if you were taking good notes, this wouldn't be a problem. But this is a backup, and it helps. It's sort of cash summary of all your expenses. Sure, you probably aren't getting, and I definitely don't, get down to the nitty-gritty of what I spent it on. But I'm much more likely to understand, 250 gold, that's how much this is in this universe. So that's what I bought. That's why I have an extra one in my inventory. Now I remember. By the way, anytime you're putting pen to paper is good. That's kind of affecting or breaking through the player character barrier, a sort of refresh in your brain of, what do I need to be doing? What's important? What's this? Looking at that paper, maybe you want to jot something else down. DMs. Notes are important for you too. Write down who your characters meet. Write down things that they have done. Little pranks. Little things that are not important to the main story, but are important to the characters. Remember a time they did something that they probably won't even remember. And it's all about little moments. This goes for both players and DMs at this point. Going back to why I think note-taking is so important. We are all made up of moments in our life. Little tiny fractions of things. Sure, we have major elements to our life that have happened, but you don't get over your anger, over one major event. You don't learn to forgive yourself. You don't overcome your depression because, you've acquired the dagger of Yggdrasil or something like that. Those things help along the way, but it's the little moments. When a friend helped you when you didn't think anyone else saw you. When another player takes care of the inexpenses. When you could have killed all the guards but didn't. When someone shared a piece of loot that, granted, it should have been for them, but it fits you just a little better and they know that you want it, so they let you have it. Those thoughts, those memories, those are the ones that stick with us and change us. But it's very hard to remember them as a player living in these bodies, because you remember, heck yeah, we had a sweet fight and there was a bunch of mummies and we chopped them in half, and or, oh man, there was a big bad evil guy, and then we all got up all of our powers and leveled up because we got all the experience points and beat that guy down. This all bleeds in to the next phase of the note-taking. Actually looking through the notes. Now, granted, they will always be there as for whenever you forgot something, and earlier when I said you need a character's name and you're like, that came up. What was going on? We do not live in the skin of our characters. We live in our own. We have the gift of reflection. We can look back on yesterday. We can hark on older times. When you're a player, it's kind of just getting to the next thing, going back into it, and getting to the next thing. Give your character that opportunity to live and reflect as you do. And you will get character development and little thoughts and ideas way beyond what you thought you could do. Let's say your session is once a week, and it's on Thursdays. Find some time in the weekend to crack this bad boy open and look over everything that you did that week. You'll remember things you've already forgot. You'll think about things that you realize you didn't write down and will then take the moment to remember it. But ultimately, you're giving your character a couple seconds to breathe outside of Dungeons and Dragons when everybody's here. Now that you've reflected throughout the week and thought about D&D, now that you're back into the world, now that you're back in that mind's eye, add a few more sentences. If you want to get detailed, now's the time to do it. How did what happened make you feel? What have you thought since? What have you realized you need to look into? And what do you want your character to do? Put that stuff in there. You're taking notes to experience and remember. It's not just for when you're playing. It's for now. It's for whenever. That's the point of notes. It's not just to remember if you did do a thing or somebody's name. It's to more thoroughly get thoughts out. I've known people who have taken barely any notes. I've known people that have taken no notes whatsoever. They put in things they acquire and they remember most of it. But putting pen to paper will always get you way more out of character development than simply role-playing. If you enjoyed this video, a like and a subscribe would really be appreciated on my end. We're dropping content fairly regularly too, so I wouldn't want you to miss out. Plus, be sure to check that description for other things I'm involved in. Thanks for dropping by, guys, and go out there and make some memories.